Okay, so the first one is how to change 3/4 into a decimal. So the way I teach it is to divide. So you put the denominator here and you put the numerator here. So denominator goes on the outside of the division sign and the numerator goes on the inside. How many times does 4 go into 3? It does not, right? So we're going to add a 0, but we can't just add a 0. We have to add a point, which is a decimal, right? And then we bring that decimal up here. So that's our first step, is to rewrite this denominator here, numerator here. Second step is to put a decimal right here, and then you bring the decimal up to the answer. Now you say, how many times does 4 go into 30? It goes in how many times? 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And then 30 minus 28 is 2. You keep adding zeros until you get no remainder. How many times does 4 go into 20? 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. We do not have a remainder, so we can stop there. So 0.75 is our answer. So if we had 2/3, we would put the denominator here and we would put the numerator here. How many times does 3 go into 2? It does not. So we add our 0, we put a decimal here, and then we bring it up like this. 3 goes into 20 how many times? 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. 20 minus 18 is 2. And it doesn't matter how many times we add a 0, it's going to keep equaling 6. So it's never going to clear, but that's okay. So what we do is, our answer is 0.666666, but we don't have to do all that. We just have to go to the third digit right here, and then we underline this digit and we say 5 or more, let this number soar, or, 5 or more, yeah. And then 4 or less, let it rest. So this is either going to be a 0.66 or it's going to be a 0.67. Since this neighbor is bigger, it soars to 0.67. You're probably not going to have any of these, but this is just what you do just in case you do have one of those. The next one is 4/5. So you put the 5 here and you put the 4 here. And then you do the answer. You do the division. Now, because this is a 5, if it's a 5, a 10, a 25, or a 50, we can take a shortcut. So here is the shortcut. And we can do it to 3/4 too. So you're going to make this into a 100. You're going to make this into a 100. You're going to make this into a 100. And you're going to make this into a 100. So we can't just change a 4/5 to 100. So what would we have to multiply 5 by to get it to 100? We would have to multiply it by 20. Anything we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. And 4 times 20 is 80. 80 over 100 is point what?
80.
Yep, or just 0.8, right? Because we don't need this. We can get rid of this, and it's 8/10. So you can change this 5 to a 10 or a 100. Totally up to you. It's fine. We just need it to be a tenths or a 100. So this is 0.8. And then this one, how many times does 4 go into 100? 25 times. Anything we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 25 times 3 is 75. And then what's 75 over 100? 0.75. 25 times 4 is 100. So then we would multiply 26 times 4. And we would get 104 over 100. What is 104 over 100 if you were to do a decimal, Lila?
1.4.
And then what would we do for this one? So we made this into a denominator of 100. How would I change my 10 into a 100?
Times 10 by 10.
Yep. Then what do I do?
You have to do the same to the top, to the 25.
Yep. And then what would I do?
If 25 times 10
You can work it out on paper if you need to.
it would be 25.
25? 25 times 1 is 25. So 25 times 10 would be 250. So it would be 250 over 100. So what would that be as a decimal?
It would be 2 and 50/10 or 2 and 5/10.
Exactly.
2 and 50/100 or 2 and 5/10.
You got it. So that is how you do it. I would recommend this way. It's easier than this way. But the reason why I showed you this way is once in a while, we cannot make a 3 into a 10 or a 100. So what would you do if she gave you something like 6 or 3 as a denominator? We cannot put that as 100 or a 10. So you have to know how to do this. She may not give it to you, but it's a second way to do it that is not as easy for some kids. So you can pick either way to do it. Do you want to go over and practice some of these? Other ones, like we can come up with different examples.
Sure.
Okay, so converting fractions to decimals. Let me get some examples. Okay. How about 3/50ths, 6/25ths, to start with?